Welcome to the Startup Grind.
To be here with you, Jessica.
Why, thank you, Alfred. It's great to be here with all of you guys. Thanks for coming out.
It's going to be like a board meeting. I'm going to get to ask all the questions, and you're going to have to come up with all the answers.
I love it. You should know some of the answers to these questions already, I guess. This is a good one.
Also, if you guys have questions in the audience, start thinking about them. We'd like to make this a little interactive, but we want thoughtful questions, not questions you could ask anyone else, because we have Jessica here. So, Jessica, when did you start having a bug to sort of be an entrepreneur and start your own company?
I think I had a bug when I was born. I really do feel like when people ask me, why do I choose to do this? And sometimes being an entrepreneur is quite masochistic, so you might have that question of, why do I choose to do this? And I do think of it as, I have brown hair, that's the way it worked out, and I see it in my daughter, who just can't wait to have a lemonade stand every day, and I was that kid. I needed to pay my way through college, so I started this little books business that I sold, and I always wanted to do my own thing. I think very quickly in high school, working jobs at the mall, I figured out that I didn't want to work for somebody else, and I didn't want to earn, only dollars for the hours I worked.
And what's the first company that you started?
Well, the one that I started in, it was a personalized children's book business, and you could insert the name of the kid into the story, and we sold them at like swap meets and stores. That was when I was 17, if that officially counted.
And have you ever had a real job then?
Yes, well, I've scooped ice cream. I've worked I've been a waitress. I've worked at Dell. That's the one in my professional career, aside from startups, that I count as my one real job.
Okay, so why don't you take us back to when you got started with Stella Dot? What was the genesis of it, and what was the inspiration for the idea?
Well, I had started a different company out of business school called, that went on to become weddingchannel.com. It's an online aggregated gift registry, and I loved that experience. It was something that when I was at business school, it was the time when everyone was thinking about how would just the use of and the proliferation of the internet change business in the world. So I was very lucky to be at the right place at the right time, where you could disrupt, and e-commerce was going to change everything. So I started that business. It was commercially successful. It was exciting, but it was not my calling. It wasn't something where I bounded out of bed in the morning to solve the world's problems about weddings. And at that time, we were fortunate enough to be featured on Oprah for the business, and all these women reached out to me, and the presentation of the business was very Oprahized. It was like, look, they just got this idea one day, and then there it is, and isn't this great? You should do this. And all these women reached out to me and said, I want to do that. I want to be an entrepreneur. And I was thinking to myself, I really don't have advice for you. If I think about what I did to do this, I don't think you want this, right? I had to have a specialized education. I raised capital, which escalated my commitment to work every night and every day for years. And that question, though, just stuck with me, because I got that there was so much about what you do as an entrepreneur that's about creation and unbounded hope and fulfilling, a dream that everybody wants to tap into. So I got very curious about, how could you democratize entrepreneurship if you could lower the risks, if you could lower the cost of capital to start, if you didn't require specialized education, if you gave somebody a platform so they didn't have to master distribution and customer service. Could you have a better answer to that? And that's when I started thinking about, could you revolutionize flexible entrepreneurship? And that's the basis of Stella Dot.
So Stella Dot's more than just a company or a business. It's really a movement.
It is a movement. It's about a lot more than cute jewelry, which, people think of us as a fashion company, and we are. But first and foremost, we are a people company that's mission-driven about creating happiness in people's lives, because they have more independent economic choice and continued professional growth.
So can you give us a little sense of how big this movement is? So how many people have signed up to be basically on this mission?
So first of all, the best part about this business is that I measure our success not in our revenue, but in the amount of incremental income that we've paid out to stylists. So we've paid out over $185 million to over 34,000 women, and a few good men, in 5 countries, and created a lot of joy along the way. So our business is now over just over $220 million last year. So that's the more traditional measure. But for me, it is about recognizing that there are so many people out there whose lives are very fundamentally changed by $500 a month. And what else is their option to do that? So being that answer is amazing. Being there's so many babies that were paid for on their Stella Dot Blue card because that was the way they were going to go get incremental money for in vitro fertilization, or second homes bought, or remodels done. So to me, it's about the life happiness that we've created as a business, and that's how I measure how big we are.
That's great. So $220 million in revenue last year?
Yes. As a board member, you specifically just want the financials. Yes.
I think people sort of don't really know the magnitude of how big Stella Dot is. How much did you make in profit last year?
Over 24 million, which actually we're making massive reinvestments in our growth. So we've really taken down what we're dropping to the bottom line because we're really investing in geographic expansion. We've opened up France and Germany last year. We're investing in product category expansion. We launched bags last year, and in 9 months, sold more than very established fashion brands. So we are investing a lot in growth and incubating some new ideas.
This seems like an overnight success. How many years has it taken to get here?
It is a classic overnight success in the sense that it is about 10 years in the making. And it was like, this looks so easy. How did you do this? It's just the road to success is paved with failures and mistakes and just a lot of passion and persistence along the way.
And so getting to that point, there are a lot of people here who are starting their own company. There are very dark days trying to get product market fit. How did you get through those dark days? And that's one question. The second is, during those dark days, who did you lean on? Who did you get a call for advice? Because it's really lonely to be a founder or a CEO.
It is. One, I think, when I first started this, I had been an e-commerce entrepreneur. I'd left and went to work for Dell and was at that time, I had my first baby and was focused on those elements of my life. And then I started making jewelry in my living room, and people thought I just lost it. And I'm sitting there beading, and I'm like, trust me, this is going to be big. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And so, there was a lot of naysayers. And I can tell you the world is an ample supply of people who have every doubt about why your business won't work. And frankly, even business school, where I was when I started my first business, is just training people to think of every reason why things won't work versus being filled with 100% conviction that it will, because of course you will have obstacles every single day, but greatness is created when you just learn to outlast them versus prevent them. So for me, in the beginning, as a second-time entrepreneur, I had a little bit more thick skin. I had the tenacity. I knew it was going to be paved with all kinds of ups and downs, and I just was really certain that this needed to exist in the world. And it's what fuels me today. I think we're just having, coffee in the morning in terms of how many lives we can impact. And I'm so utterly committed to the mission that it levitates me over any problem that we have. I never lose doubt. I don't need instant validation every single day with everything going right. I am positive that this is part of the future.
So taking that to heart, though, what was the darkest moment in Stella Dot's history that you can share with us?
That is a great question. The darkest moment. Well, there was one where I had started this business as a lifestyle business, and I think probably the amazing board that I have, and which Alfred is a part of, probably laugh at this because they know my nature, my personality, and this isn't really lends itself to me. But when I had started this, I had one baby, I had another one, and as a family, I was trying to navigate, okay, how am I going to do this startup, and be the mom that I want to be. And so I hired someone to come in, and in my mind, they were going to be running the company. We just raised the tiniest bit of seed capital. And within a month or so, it was obvious that that wasn't really the right thing. Yet I had just taken this money, and it was this moment of recognition of like, okay, I've escalated my commitment. I've got to go do this now. And yet I've got this baby, and I just literally had a baby. She was a week old, just brought her back to the office and kept rolling. But that was a moment when I realized, okay, here I am. I'm going to make this work.
So you started a company, had a baby, had another one, bootstrapped the company, got it to $220 million last year. How much money did you raise?
So I was fiercely committed to bootstrapping this. I didn't take a paycheck for 4 years. I worked another job and did this nights and weekends while I was pregnant because I wanted to keep control of the mission. So I didn't want a very, diluted, just too many people around the table with different interests. I wanted to do this on my own pace, and we raised, eventually, I started my thought was, here's how I'm going to fund this business: sales. There's a novel idea. And so I just started I wanted to shorten the time, which I believe is a great advice for most businesses. Just shorten the time between you and revenue, and fund the business that way. So in total, we raised about a couple $1 million to start it, but we didn't use it all. So we get to profitability about a couple $1 million.
So that's pretty amazing, given today's day and age where you hear about these crazy valuations, people raising $100 million rounds, and you raised a couple of $1 million and got it profitable. And basically, instead of the best way to raise equity, your advice to everybody here is just to go earn it.
Everybody asks me, how do I get the best mentorship? And I'm like, your customer. Your customer's the best mentor you could ever have. Think of them advising your business. So just get a product to market and have the customer be giving you advice and having your sales be what's funding your growth.
So looking back, and you've had time to reflect on Stella Dot over the years, what things would you keep absolutely the same, wouldn't touch a bit, and what things would you change about Stella Dot?
It is always a great question. This could be a reflection of my Pollyanna personality, but I do think that regret is the most futile of emotions. So I'm almost so programmed to be positive at all times, which I believe you need to be an entrepreneur, that I almost have a hard time even processing that question, because I think to myself, well, everything that's gone wrong has been a gift, because there's some insight into it, there's some lesson to learn. So I can't really go back and pick this one thing that went wrong and then assume that all the great things that happened would have happened without that utter tragedy or lesson that got me to the better place. So I do truly embrace that positive intelligence of, this is a gift, where's the opportunity in it, and move on. So there's been a lot of things where this product didn't work, so we were over inventory. This technology that we just bought cratered, and now we got to redo it. I mean, I've had every single type of operational problem that every business is going to have. But there have been moments of utter joy around when you see the difference that you're making, when you see that you were able to outlast the doubters and truly innovate and make something that didn't exist before exist. That's been so worth it.
So no regrets, even with your pain in the ass board?
I have the greatest board in the world. That is, your board is supposed to be a bit of a pain in the ass. They're supposed to push you and challenge you. And I got to tell you, this guy's a great board member, and my board keeps me honest and focused, and we just had a last board meeting where I went in thinking one way, and with a lot of challenge, I really do feel like we're in a great place. So yes, my board is a total pain in the ass, and I love them for it. So.
Well, we're very happy to be investors in Stella Dot and being partners here. So anybody with questions?
I think that's a great question. And for those that didn't hear it, it's, if I'm doing a business that gives me a great cash stream, why go get other capital to scale the business? And I think you're asking yourself the right question, which is, first of all, as an entrepreneur, you're all in here. But in order to make something work, you've really got to invest your one precious life in doing this. So you have to be very careful to first, before you ask yourself, how do I finance my business? You should first ask yourself, how do I define happiness in my life? And is success happiness? Because if it's not, it should be. And then what business really suits my life goal and passion? And do I want to grow this business, or am I happy with the way that it is? I don't want to do that just because there's some feather in my cap, or what you're supposed to do in the valley, or I can sound cooler at a cocktail party. It's like, this is actually what I want to do when I get out of bed in the morning. And for me, the vision of being able to create over 100,000 incremental opportunities for income and flexible entrepreneurship around the world, I knew that I wanted thought partners in my business. So the first person I went to wasn't a traditional VC fund. It was Doug McKenzie at Radar Partners, who had been on my board at Wedding Channel. And I knew that dynamic of exactly what Alfred does for me today is I really value having that push, that someone who keeps you right back to the lightning post of what really matters. Because as an entrepreneur, you do get down in the fray. I was a single founder. I did want someone who was going to help me realize the vision of the company. And for them to have interest in the business, they need ownership. So I was more motivated from that perspective rather than, should I just go do this so that I can be on a different path that wasn't aligned with my life and the mission.
When did you flip from wanting to run a lifestyle business to this grand vision that you have for building a really sustainable, enduring company? Because I think that was the flip when you decided to take.
You know, I always wanted to do that. And this is what I like to tell a lot of women especially, and men that are also parents. You know, life is long, and it's going to have a lot of twists and turns. And so sometimes, you know, when I had my first business, all I did was work all day and all night and all weekend. When I had my second one, I had 2 kids as well. And one of them, who's healthy as an ox today, was, you know, had some medical issues where she had to have a little heart surgery. And so when when you got that going on in your life, this other stuff just looks like a joke. You know, you're like, well, I'm not going to sign up for some kind of revenue plan or this. I got to figure this out. And so for me, the lifestyle element was, I'm a mom. My family has some of these things going on. I want to work that out before I go all in and commit to this. I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it, but it's going to be on my timeline. So that was, for me, it was frankly when, and I go to often speak it to young women at business school, and they're thinking, when did you decide to scale the business? Is it when you got access to capital? I'm like, well, actually, it was when I was done breastfeeding my second child and travel. So that was really my personal inflection point. Yours might be a little different, I'm sure, but that was mine.
Take one more question.
So as an entrepreneur, I think the hardest constraint you always have is time. I mean, you have thousands of tasks and you are limited to your time.
Yes.
So how do you like prioritize and make time for you?
Time is our scarcest commodity, and it's the most fair thing on the planet because everybody gets exactly the same amount. And so I like to remind myself that, first of all, I don't think of time management, I think of time mastery. And I never tell myself I'm too busy for anything. I say I don't choose that because I choose this instead. And I love to think about the fact that no one's ever done anything, all this amazing thing that's happened. People have made airplanes. They've invented the cures to diseases. They've changed the world with exactly the same 24 hours in every day. So time is actually not something that gates you from doing any kind of great human accomplishment. It's like when my daughter has a birthday. When she was younger, she used to say, my birthday it's not my birthday, it's my sister's birthday. That's so unfair. I'm like, actually, no, it's the most fair thing. We all get one. It's just once a year, and it's picked at random for you. Time, when people say, I don't have enough time, I'm like, but I don't get that. Everybody's got the same amount of time. You just need to make choices that where you're living your life in accordance with your priorities. And so if you're not doing it, you may not be prioritizing it. And you do have to be laser-like focused, which is what a board can be very helpful for. And what is the one thing that matters? If I were writing a book about why Stella Dot became a billion-dollar brand, what would the next chapter be called? What's the title of that? And what's the opening sentence and the ending one? And if what I'm doing isn't that, I should probably skip it or keep figuring out what that is, because it is about high-value activities, what actually makes the difference, and being very selective with what you choose to do with your one precious life.
Hi, thanks. I'm just wondering, with such an online-focused commerce company, how has the rise of mobile devices affected your business, and how have you navigated that?
So, well, first of all, Stella Dot is what our massive innovation is that we're the combination of high touch and high tech. So we sell through our independent stylists who sign up to get a business in a box. They have an instant e-commerce business, mobile app business, and they do pop-up shops in living rooms around the world or offices, and they have an accompanying online business. So the beautiful thing about that is the customer can see the product in person. They've got somebody who is so passionate, so knowledgeable, and then they can also shop online at midnight if they want to, but with that personal touch. So when I've defined our business, and actually when I started thinking about this, the big insight was these businesses don't have e-commerce. How crazy. Any independent entrepreneur needs a multi-channel business today. Our innovation is going to be they're also going to have a website. That's so, 2000 late. Now it's about what mobile and social elements are going to help amplify their ability to reach a broader customer set than ever before. So I look at it as it's not about what's the current buzzword or trend. It's about how is technology changing the way that people interact, the way that you can train people, the way that you can better serve customers, and continually staying focused on innovating and moving that forward. It's dramatically changed the productivity and the way that our independent business owners operate.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming today. What advice do you have for single founders on how to surround yourself with people that will give you the different perspectives that you lack so you don't work in this vacuum?
So as an entrepreneur, I've fundamentally realized it is not my job to know everything and be the best person at everything, even as a CEO. It's not my job to know everything. It's to go find the people that do and get them aligned with my mission and cause and learn from them and get them to contribute to our great cause together. So what it takes is talking to a lot of people, kissing a lot of frogs. You just need to have a lot of conversations and put yourself out there in the world to realize that one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So oftentimes people are frustrated because they're not getting the immediate answer. And I've often said, you haven't gotten the immediate answer yet. You're just about 10 conversations away from this one key insight or something you're learning today that you didn't even realize was important that's going to come back to you later. So it really is like all things. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of going out and finding people who have some other like-minded interest, and there's a reason why they want to participate and get involved. Generally, though, I do think entrepreneurs overly worry about board and mentors versus customers and just immersion in the market. Those are the people that are going to give you the best advice.
That is probably one of the most sound advice I've heard from any CEO. So to wrap up, one thing that somebody asked me backstage was what was the reason why Sequoia decided to invest in Stella Dot? And I think you could see now how special Jessica is and how inspirational she is. So my final question then is, so you're able to sort of light up a room, you have a magnetic personality.
It's all you, Alfred.
Yeah, right. Where do you draw your inspiration from?
You know, I don't know. I love what I do so much. I am so filled with gratitude. I think perspective is magical, and our Stella Dot Foundation does things where we've built schools, and I'm so proud of that too in terms of our business accomplishment. And every day I sit there and think, I was born in America. I have all the choice and opportunity in the world. I was on an incentive trip with our UK stylist to Morocco, and we're on this tour bus, and we were talking about why is it that people like the king here? And he had said, well, you know, because he was the one that let girls go to school and learn how to read and write 14 years ago. It's not just crazy that I actually could have been born in a place in our age where I would have not been allowed to learn to read and write. So I do have this perspective of I am so lucky to get up and breathe in the morning, to be born to who I was, to have the chance to make a mark on the world, that I don't let anything suck my energy without just having to fundamental realization that I'm so lucky to be here.
Okay, one other question. So you have great stage presence. How'd you get that?
Thank you. I feel like now I have to get up and tap dance or something to pay that off. I'm not so sure that's true.
How'd you get that? And is there a time when you didn't have that? And what was it like? Was it embarrassing? So it's not super. I'm not trying to embarrass you. What's an endearing story of where you were not as polished as you are today?
Well, I do have this, my dad will tell this story that I was in a tap dance class as a little kid, probably at 4 or 5, but I'd missed all the rehearsals, but I still wanted to go to the reception because I really wanted to wear the outfit as any 4 or 5-year-old girl would obviously want to do. And everyone else was doing the dance routine, and I just was freelancing over there, doing my own thing. I do think that it is 10,000 hours. It is the... ever since I was in junior high, I did speech and debate, and I did things where I practiced and put a lot of effort into it, and I fundamentally realized it was a life skill that I think is critical, and I've worked hard at it. So that's, I think, the reality is, I'm certainly it isn't effortless.
Cool. Jessica Herrin, founder and CEO of Stella Dot.